Take me back to the moment you decided to get into real estate. What was happening in your life and what made you think this is it?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. It's actually it was a challenge, to be honest with you, because I had so much going on at the time. I try to lump it up for you to share this story. So I was an educator. I was in the school business. I was assistant principal, and I coached baseball and I coached football. And I got out of the classroom, went and got my master's at Gardner Webb University here in North Carolina. And I was living with another buddy of mine. Me and like four other guys bought a house together, and so that's kind of part of the story on a personal note, and I'll circle back around on why that's so important. And so I was in becoming administration as an assistant principal. I did that for about 2 years and was about to go get my doctorate to be a superintendent. And as I was doing that, one of the baseball coaches says, "Man, why don't you do real estate?" And I was just like, "What? Real estate?" I'm like, "I'm not doing that. I'm a school teacher. Like, I didn't go to school for that. I don't want to go back. And if I go back to school, I'm going to get my doctorate." He's like, "You don't need to. You could just take these classes." I was like, "Okay." So I was like, I literally had a lot of limiting beliefs on it because that's where I grew up. I grew up in upstate New York. And, you basically, as I share with people, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you have a family, you raise the family. You work for 30 years and you retire and then you die. Like, that's what you do. Like, your life was pretty mapped out, and everybody in my family, that's what it was. And so I just assumed I was already the black sheep because I moved from upstate New York to Charlotte, North Carolina, and everybody thought that was crazy because nobody in our family, and there's over 50 of us on both sides of the family, ever moved away. So I was the only one. So I was like, "I don't think I could do it, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "No, you should try it." Well, I did it. Well, the challenge was it took me 7 times, Jake, to pass my test.
Wow.
I failed the class twice and had to redo it. And here in North Carolina, it's a 90-hour course. And maybe it's 75. It's 75 or 90 hours. So I failed it, and I had to retake the entire class again, which takes 4 months to do. And the reason why I share with you what I was doing in my personal life was because during this transition of the second time that I failed it in going through my class, I was not only going through a financial problem as a school teacher, but I just found out my best friend, who I call my brother, that I've lived with for 12 years, was cheating on my girlfriend. And I was really, really emotionally devastated that he would do that. And back then, that's when our cell phones were, remember, you used to get I don't know if you remember, you're a lot younger than me, but like our cell phone bill would come in the mail and it would tell us all the numbers that we would call. And he left his phone bill on his dresser, and I just happened to go in there, and I was just like, I was like, I wonder how much his bill is. And that's when I saw all of her numbers on his phone, and it was like a dagger in my heart that, like, I was devastated. The next day I had to take my real estate test, and if I failed it, I said to myself, I'm not doing it again. And back then, you don't get results instantaneously, that you took the test and they get mailed to you.
Oh,
And
wow.
I say this because I remember exactly where I was. I was mowing my yard in the back. I told my parent, I said, if I fail it, I'm done. I'm like, I can't do this again another 4 months. And I saw the mailman come, and I remember telling God, I said, well, like, it's kind of, I haven't shared this story in a very long time. It's funny that you asked me this question. I remember telling God, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Wherever I'm supposed to land, it'll based off of this that I have right here. I passed it by 2 points.
It's amazing.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I cannot believe it, by 2 points. And the rest of my life, and as you got to know me more, like, I would never do my podcast. I wouldn't be coaching and teaching and train. I wouldn't be doing any of this. I wouldn't live the lifestyle I live and going on vacations and going to the Philippines. Like, if by 2 points changed my entire life. And so it really is, and how small things can really change and alter. And so, like, literally, that set the stage for me getting into real estate and becoming the person I am today was by 2 points. And ever since then, I've been working in real estate in some capacity, in some way. But that's literally how I got into real estate.
Yeah, it's really amazing because there's so many stories of people, getting out of college and trying it, or their dad did it, or something like that. But like you said, you were the first person in your family to actually do something like this. And fast forward all these years, I think it's safe to say with everybody that knows you, you're doing really well for yourself. Like I'm really proud of everything that you're building as a bystander looking in. And it's amazing how fast you did all of this. And it's also crazy that 2 points on the test almost didn't get you there. But let's rewind all the way back right after you passed the test. And I don't know how much time passed, but let us, everybody, know how much time passed from when you passed your test until you sold your first house. And my first house, I made $900 on when I sold for $64,000. So it wasn't the craziest sale ever, but tell us, take us all the way back then, and then tell us the story of your first sale.
So I can say it now. Legally, I was already selling homes. I was
Wow.
selling homes through another real estate agent because I was like, when you take a test and classes, like, I mean, I was already like 7 or 8 months into like real estate and doing everything. So I wasn't legally selling homes, but I was already on car rides. I was already negotiating deals with my partner, like not me just negotiating, but like I was in the rooms. I was doing that. Now, as far as my first real transaction with my real estate license, kind of like you, my first one was a trailer. And it was a mobile home. And I remember the mobile home. I remember the agent too. She was so nice to me. I believe her name was Dawn, if I remember correctly. But I told her, I said, I'm brand new and I never sold a trailer before in my entire life. And as you can imagine, back then, in 2007 is when I got my real estate license 19 years ago. You can only imagine that property was worth I think it was like $74,000 or something. And 3% commission is really not going to get you too far, plus paying fees and everything else. But I learned a lot. I learned so much on just like, the whole DMV and tags on the mobile home and all that, hurricane straps and all that stuff. So I learned a lot in reference to that. But that was my first transaction. It probably happened like within like a month or two of me with my license. But I still remained a school teacher because if we go back to 2007, 2008, 2009, those were the cringing days in the real estate industry where like the wheels started to fall apart. And so I did both school teaching and real estate at the same time.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is really impressive because so many agents get into it now and they think, I watched Selling Sunset. I'm going to go sell a $30 million condo my first day. But you just said you basically did 9 months of work before you even really got in the door. And then it took another 2 months to sell your first house.
Yeah.
And then you probably didn't do much taking home after that. But let's switch gears a little bit and go to your biggest sale ever. We've heard your story, we've heard your first sale, but now let's get into the fun stuff. What's the biggest home you ever sold, the story behind it, and if you don't mind sharing the commission check as the cherry on top?
My biggest home, when you say biggest home, you mean by volume, I guess price point wise. So my price point wise really didn't match my biggest commission check. But my biggest home I sold was 1.5 million and it was 3%. So I can't really remember. It was like 30 some $1,000 or something like that. $37,000 is what by the time I was able to take it home. But I would say my biggest commission check happened when I started to learn how to invest and do like really just grow my real estate license, meaning like what ways can I use this skill and this tool? And it really became into investing in wholesaling homes. And that one was $62,000 and that was priced, I think it was like 325.
Wow.
So it,
So your
it that
biggest sale is 1.5 and your biggest commission is almost $70,000. And looping that back to when you were a teacher, how many years of salary would, let's just say there was
Oh,
a tuition check, how
God.
many years would it take you to earn almost $100,000 as a teacher?
Brother, no joke. My first paychecks when I was a school teacher, and I started teaching school in 2001, 2002, I was making roughly about $2,400 a month. 2,400 a month. It would have taken me 3 to 4, I don't even know, 5 years to make what I did in that one period of time. And even at my peak of doing real estate, like I say this to myself now, like my peak of real estate, I mean, my peak of teaching when I was assistant principal and everything else, I was making about $57,000. And there are several months, majority of like I've made $100,000 a month, at least I would say 5 times. I'm pretty sure it's 5 times.
Wow.
And like just to think of like that, how long that would take to be able to do that. So now it's pretty fascinating on the financial. Like I don't know how people survive, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And it's crazy because looking back then and looking at your salary back then, when you first started, you probably would have, maybe guessed you could make this much money, but never actually saw it coming true. And I'm sure along the way there was a bunch of ups and downs and lefts and rights. And at least in my real estate experience, there are so many things that have happened to me that felt like the absolute end of the world. Like I lost a listing, or this buyer tried to come after me with a lawsuit or whatever. Like there's so much stuff that happens day to day in real estate, especially over the years for someone like you, that you feel like is the absolute end of the world. But looking back for me, I've realized a lot of those things that I think are going to be the worst things ever, they actually turn out to really benefit me, whether it's from a lesson or getting me out of a situation I shouldn't be in. What are some of the things that happened over the last 19 years in real estate? What's that one thing that stands out as a true blessing in disguise that you thought was going to kill you when it happened?
I lost my license for an entire year due to a lawsuit. I was in a 2.5 year property management lawsuit. The attorneys alone were like $75,000. I was a school teacher for 12 years, as you kind of heard. I had to empty out my entire retirement to pay for it. The embezzlement from one of my employees was like $46,000. And on December 11th, 2019, I officially lost my license in the state of North Carolina. And I had to go into a room at Keller Williams, and I sat down with the owner of the company, the broker in charge, and the team leader. And who would have thought, kind of funny story, that the team leader at the time period is my girlfriend today, Wendy. Needless to say, we weren't in a relationship then, but she was in that room. So, like, she remembers, like, when I tell her, when she hears me say this story, she's like, it's so weird. Like, she was on that side of the desk. And the owner because each Keller Williams is independently owned. And the guy said to me, what are you going to do now that you don't have a license? Going back to teaching? And I said, thank you. That's all I needed to hear. And I'll be back here tomorrow. He's like, well, what are you going to do? You don't have a license. And kind of, as you know, one of my podcast shows is called Figure It Out Friday. That's really where it started from, was the whole, I'll figure it out. I don't know yet, but I will figure it out. And throughout that process, I went from 4 people on my team to 18 people on my team without having a North Carolina real estate license.
Wow.
And then during the time period, people didn't understand how I got paid. And I went and I drove down to South Carolina, which is now, how close that is. It's about 30 minutes from me. And I went to the Keller Williams in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And I said, do you mind if I hang my real estate license here? Because I'm legal in South Carolina. And I said, I have 18 people on my team. And they said, come on down, we'll take you. And so I hung my license there. And I became a referring agent, and I became a really damn good ISA. And that is how I wrote my book, Churning Scripts and Conversations. That is how I do my FSBOs and expires now, because I became the best ISA there was. I watched the movie Pursuit of Happiness, and you see when Will Smith's pounding the phones, that's literally what I did. And without a real estate license, I made $257,000 that year by co-broking every deal through the state of South Carolina. And during that time period, people at Keller Williams got pissed, and so they fired me. I'm like one of the only people to ever get fired from a 1099 independent brokerage. And they fired me. They're like, you have to leave. I was like, why? They're like, because you're doing things that is bringing too much negativity. Really it was I had a lot of haters because they didn't know like how I could keep doing what I was doing, and they thought I would leave. And that to me like gets me all fired up. Like when Tom Brady had Deflategate and they said you're going to lose the first 4 games, he was like, bring it. And now I'm going to take us and we're going to go to the Super Bowl. And that's exactly what he did. And I had that mindset. I was just like, well, I'm just going to keep on freaking crushing it, and I'm going to do it. Little did I know that God's plan was for me to help other people, because when I tell people, like, do you have a real estate license? Great, then you're fine. Like, I did this without a license in the state of North Carolina. I just really wanted it really badly. So from 2019 into 2020, that entire year, I put myself ranked at 826 because that's how many people we had. I left Keller Williams. I went to EXP, and I was ranked number 826. And as you probably know, in the NFL, they call it the comeback player of the year. And I said, I'm going to be the comeback agent of the year. And I ranked myself at the very, very bottom because I had no business for the entire year of 2019 and 2020. And so I said, well, how many people are at EXP in the state of North Carolina? At the time, there was like 825 or 826. I said, well, good. I'll be ranked last then. And that year, I got myself all the way to number 24.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'm just going to freaking crush it. But I didn't know that the plan and the vision was to help so many people overcome adversity, how to have conversations. And I did it through for sale by owners and expireds.
That's amazing. And you said you made over $270,000 in that 1 year without a license in the state that you lived in, which means you made in 1 year without a license in your state, you made 10 years worth of salary that you would have made if you're still a teacher. So yeah. I'd say that's definitely a blessing in disguise, because looking back on it, you're probably happy it happened because of all the skills you got. But at the time, you're probably, I would imagine, losing sleep, losing hair, losing money, losing everything over it.
Oh, I lost my marriage. I almost lost my kids. I lost my house. I was a recovering alcoholic. I went to drinking. Like, that year was complete. I had both my cars repossessed. I had DSS called against me. And my son at the time, Bryce, was less than a year old. He was actually, at the time period, he was born in August, and this happened on December 11th, 2019. So he was only like 4 months old.
Wow. And you brought it all back. And I think Keller Williams and EXP and everybody else who doubted you they're probably regretting it right now, because like you said, comeback player of the year. I mean, I don't think you can get much better than that. And looking where you are now, the clients, the novations, the wholesales, everything in between, it's come full circle, I'd say. But
let me tell you this.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's funny you say you made that comment, so it triggered me. So once I lost my license in December 11th, they fired me at Keller Williams it was like the end of June. And I remember going into the office because my birthday is July 3rd. And I remember the owner coming up to me and says, "Can we talk?" And I honestly thought he was going to congratulate me about the success I've been doing, and he's been impressed with me, and he was wanting to. It was like my birthday was coming up. Like, I really thought he was doing something in reference to that. And that's when he says to me, "We have to let you go." I was like, "What? Like, how am I mean, I didn't know at all how I was going to make money. Like, I was like, I need to have I have to have a license and a firm to hang it with. And I was already baggage anyways, because I did have I had legality on my license. So fast forward the 6 months, I was, I won some awards and stuff for what I did. So like that spring, no joke, the person who fired me, let me go, asked to meet with me. I met him, and he had the audacity to ask me to come back to Keller Williams. And I said, you know what? I really appreciate that. That is a really nice compliment. But I can tell you this, I will never work for anybody who's not in my corner when I need them most, at my lowest of my lows. And unfortunately, that is you. So as much as I appreciate you, I'm out. But thank you. And so, like, it amazes me. And that's like kind of like my chip on my shoulder, like kind of when Tom Brady, when they picked him way at the very end, he's like, not a problem. I'll make you all pay.
Yeah, it's crazy how, people, they write you off when you're at the bottom or when you're starting something new or, you're getting into real estate and I'm going to go do this and do that. And they're like, oh, yeah, of course you're going to be a realtor. Everybody is. Or, yeah, of course you're going to be the comeback player of the year because everybody wants to be. But when you actually pull it off, same thing with me. If it actually gets pulled off, then people come back and they take back what they said. So looking back on everything of your career, especially in real estate, if you had to go back to the beginning, would you do it again?
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't, I tell people all the time, it was funny, I was just talking about it yesterday. It's just all part of the process. It's part of the plan that God has for me. And you have to go through that. I say many times, you got to go through the tests, the trials, the tribulations before you can get to the testimonial. You got to get the broken before you can get to the blessing. There's always pain before you get to the promise. And when you have that type of understanding, and I had to go through all of that because, it's a process to grow through this. John Maxwell, when I work with him, he says that you got to grow through it and go through it. And there's no other way around that. And so Jim Rohn talks about being an ant. You put something in front of an ant, it doesn't stop. It finds a way to go over it, around it, under it. It will continue to go on its journey. And it's kind of how I look at myself on going through this. It's just part of the process, and I do it again.
That's amazing. And in closing, where can people find you? Let's hear your email if you want to share it, your phone number if you want to share it, and of course your social medias.
So my phone number is 704-728-1008. That is my direct line, so it's not a Google number or anything else. My email, I try to keep it very simple, so it's Brock, B-R-O-C-K, .zevan, Z-E-V-A-N, @gmail.com. As far as my socials, the best way I tell people is just look me up online, go into Facebook. You can go to my personal page at Brock Zevan. I'm on Instagram, on TikTok, I'm on YouTube. Then you'll find my private pages that I have for my mindset motivational. That's where you find my podcast. So it's pretty much when you Google my name, it's out there in some capacity, in some way. And just send me a DM. Love to have you. Love to be on our podcast. We do it every morning, Monday through Friday, 8:15 Eastern to 8:45. I always said that when I was drinking and doing all my craziness, if I could do craziness and drinking on every day that ends in Y, I could do something good on every day that ends in Y. So we do 256 episodes a year. Been doing it for 5 years in a row. And love to have you join us any morning that you're around.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, man. That's a wrap. I mean, I think we dove deep on the first one. I didn't know like all those parts of your stories. Like I knew the surface level. I'm glad you're the first guy to be on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's funny. Like I said, I was like, I haven't told this story in a long time. And like you said, like most people know my surface stories, but I think that's why I like podcasts is because I could get a little bit more in depth on it and deeper for audiences or people. And the people who interview me are always like, I had no idea. I was like, well, I don't usually air out everything.
I say you just whipped it all out in the wind right there.
Yeah. It surfaces well because there's so many triggers that happen to me when I talk, or you'll say something and I'm like, oh gosh, I remember this. Oh, I remember this. So